Greetings, and welcome to AlonzoBash Podcast, Real People, Real Conversations. On this special edition, Alonzo takes the journey to the beautiful island of St. Martin for an exclusive series of powerful conversations with some of the island's top entertainers and cultural influencers. Featured guests include 2026 Road March champion Skill Full Band, legendary radio personality and Groovy Monarch champion King James, four-time Power Soca Monarch King Veers, and former president of the St. Martin Carnival Foundation, renowned event promoter behind the massive Flagfest event, Ms. Fabiana Arnell. In this in-depth and insightful discussion, the panel explores the rich cultural identity of St. Martin and the unique influence of both French and Dutch traditions on the island's music, carnival, and entertainment scene. King James also sheds light on the connection and influence St. Martin artists have had on the evolution of Bouyon music throughout the Caribbean. From carnival history and music evolution to tourism, culture, and the future of Caribbean entertainment, this episode delivers authentic island perspectives and untold stories straight from St. Martin. This and much more on the AlonzoBash Podcast, Real People, Real Conversations. AlonzoBash Podcast starts now.
The AlonzoBash Podcast. I'm your host, Alonzo Bash, and of course, we're in the beautiful island of St. Martin. And we're joined by a cast of who's in the entertainment industry. And of course, to my right, we got Mr. King Veers. We have Miss Beautiful, Miss Fabiana. We got King James, and we got the Skillful Band, 26 Band of the Year, also Road March champion as well. Yeah? All right, guys. So I'm very much excited. I'm very thankful for you guys taking the time out, the busy schedule, to join me. And I really want you guys to take this opportunity to kind of tell folks about St. Martin. You know, if you've never been to St. Martin before, what St. Martin have to offer and the entertainment space in St. Martin. So I'm going to start with the big man himself. You know, the song being booming on the radio. No, I've been listening to the radio since I've been here, and we talked about that. And I'm really impressed by the variety of music that I was hearing since I've been here. So I'm going to start with King first, and tell us a bit about yourself, and of course, how you got into the entertainment business, and of course, St. Martin.
No problem. It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us. As you mentioned, Verse is the name. Four-time Power Soca King. 4 years in a row. I've been in music for over 15, close to 20 years. Born and raised in St. Martin. St. Martin is a cultural melting pot, as we like to say. Yeah. But we love it here. It's a little bit of French, a little bit of Dutch, and a whole lot of Caribbean. And when it comes to music, I've been in the musical space for a while. I started out in hip hop, actually. But because of our cultural diversities, you get that influence from the reggae, the soca, the dancehall, the compa, and just try to find your own lane and fuse it all together. But St. Martin does have its own traditional song, especially when it comes to the area of soca, carnival music, as they would say. And we're just trying to be, making sure that we don't lose ourselves and bring it back centerfold.
So, well,
I can hold it? Okay.
Yeah, it's cool. So you have a big song on the radio right now. It's Carnival time again?
So if you ever go to the Carnival Village, depending on the Carnival Village you at, every corner got a Hana. It's more of a comedic type of song, more lyrical play, and that type of vibes. I released like 4 songs this year.
Yeah. So, sorry about that. But what's the one clip I saw? I know I saw a clip with you kissing all these women on the street. What clip was that?
So that song is called No Comment. Yeah, no comment. I'm just having fun. I mean, that's what Carnival is about, You're just enjoying the good vibes, and I just wanted to put, something together. And the video kind of went viral, so it kind of worked in my favor. I can't lie. And I got nobody home to complain to, so I was free to do it,
All right. That makes sense, man. Makes sense. So, of course, we're here with the beautiful Miss Fabiana. Her name rings heavy in the streets, both locally and internationally. So, Miss Fabiana, give us a breakdown of who you are and what do you do.
Hi, thank you for having me and having all of us here this evening, because originally it was only for me. And I was like, you know what? No, let's open it to others as well. And I am appreciative of them accepting the request to be here. So, Miss Alonzo, you sent me a message, and I was like, okay, who's this gentleman? So here we are today. Welcome to St. Martin. St. Martin has a lot to offer. Our nightlife is great. Our daytime is also super. We have 37 beaches. You can go to a beach a day, depending on how long you stay here. We have very friendly and courteous people here with us in the how you say, in the industry, hospitality industry. We love to party. St. Martin people love to party. Carnival can happen every day of the year for them, if you ask me. So thank God it's only one time a year, but we are uniquely divided by two different nations. We are divided by French St. Martin as well as Dutch St. Martin. So we have two complete different sovereigns. We are one part Dutch, one part French. We have invisible borders, so we can cross the borders without any toll be paid, without any harm, without any problems. We're the tiniest for me in the Caribbean with two nationalities on one island. We have more than 120 nationalities living on the island harmoniously. And that's where Flatfest was born, Caribbean Flatfest, having that in mind. So who am I? I am Fabiana Arnell. I'm a mother of two adults. I'm a mother of two. And I work for government of St. Martin. I'm an educator by profession, so that comes out in me 60% of the time. I'm an educator by profession. I transitioned into the civil service of government some good years ago. And I was also the president of the Carnival Foundation of St. Martin. I was the first female president to ever have been in as president of Carnival, and the longest standing president as well. So from there, when I left the Carnival Foundation, I was basically not even requested. I was demanded that I put on an event for a carnival some 11 years ago, because this is our 11th year this year. A show, we were supposed to have an African type of show concert for carnival. And at that time, I think it was the Ebola that broke out and it was unable to happen. So here's where the president of the Carnival Committee then came to me and said, listen, we have an issue, we have a night to fill, and you have to figure it out. And I was like, huh? No, this is not who I am. I never did entertainment. I love to organize events, but I never did promotional entertainment. And that's where, yeah, the challenge was thrown out there and I accepted the challenge and here we are 11 years after, known as Caribbean Flag Fest.
That's impressive, man. That's impressive. It's very impressive. So up next, man, we got the big man, King James. Now, King James, before I pass the mic to you, when I first came, because I call myself a grongsman, you know, when I'm in any space, I like to talk to the locals and ask questions. So when I first landed in the airport, I say, hey, Virgin, who is like the biggest soca artist here? He's like, soca? I don't know, King James, you know. I said, that's another person. His name came up again, King James. I said, okay. Because I had it in my notes, but you know, I would like to ask people. And then I asked again, and it was like, well, it's between King James and Veers, you know. I was like, yeah. I said, well, two kings, that could work. Anyway, King James, man, you up next, man. You know, welcome.
Yes, so I go by the name of King James, soca artist from St. Martin. And I started music at a very young age. You know, I was brought up around musicians. My older brothers, they did calypso and stuff. My grandmother was also part of the carnival, you know, the early development stages of it and stuff, as well as a troop leader and so forth. So, you know, I was always around it. And then I started to play steel pan with the Mighty Dow. And that kind of, how to say, that opened me to a different side of the music, you know, from a more technical side of it. And then I started to get the love for it started to grow even more. And then I decided, hey, you know what? So a couple of friends of me, Avo, Solo Queen, and some others, we decided to start a band. And we was about, I want to say like 15, and we started the district band. And then we went ahead and we had a good run with the band, but then eventually all of us had to go away for schools. We separated and did it. And then while being in Miami for college, the opportunity for the Soca Rumble came about, which first mentioned the full-time Power King. And I decided, hey, this would be a perfect opportunity to kind of launch that solo career. And I decided to take part in it. And that's where King James was born. And coming up in the Soca game, we did Soca Rumble for 5 years. My first 4 years was a little rough. Yeah, I get beat up here and there, but being alongside artists like Verse and Kenyo and others, you know, that's what helped me how to say, helped me perfect my craft and helped me become the artist that I am today. And then on the final year, came out the Groovy King and first runner up in the Power Soca. He still beat me up again the last time. It wasn't as bad as the previous years. And then from there, I just continued on pushing the music and, you know, just being true to the music lover that I am, you know. And with that, you know, different opportunities came. And I just keep putting in the work, and then eventually, like Fabiana said, a opportunity came in 2024 where the opportunity came to have a night during Carnival, and that's where Concert X was created. Where I decided, I want to create a platform where I can highlight myself as well, but highlight the other St. Martin artists as well, because well, if you don't know, well, we tend to not the artists here tend to not get that opportunity so much on being on these bigger events, because they tend to look at the bigger artists in sense the outside also. So I decided to say, you know what, let's try something, and I came up with Concept X, and that's where it was born. And we in year 3 this year we celebrated year 3, and I feel like it was a success. And again, the mission is to bring the spotlight on the SXM artists, showing them that we have what it takes to be on the stage alongside these bigger guys, as well. We have the talent. The talent is there. It's just that, that experience, one, and opportunity. So I am wanting to give that opportunity to the others so we can highlight, because at the end of the day, it's all us. We are one, and that's St. Martin. Like Fabi mentioned, St. Martin is a one of a kind place. You could party here from Monday to Sunday, every night a different vibe. You get a little mixture of everything. Yeah, so that's who I am. And yeah.
I forgot to put my mic on, so that's why I'm passing the mic around. But it's all good though. So of course we have a skillful band, and you guys, I mentioned it early on when I first was introduced to you guys by Miss Fabiana. I'm thinking it's a bunch of, no disrespect to anybody, but a bunch of older gentlemen. And then when I saw this brother show up, I'm like, wait a minute. Well, actually, I saw the video. I'm like, wait a minute, these guys look young. And then when obviously I met them in person, and he told me his age. I'm not going to put it out there. I was like, wow, that's crazy, man. But anyway, skillful band, the brothers are here. I'm so proud of you guys, for what you guys been doing. I haven't experienced it in person, but for what I've seen, for videos or what I read about, what you guys are doing, I just want to really, really extend my gratitude, for what you guys are doing. And now give you guys opportunity to talk about yourselves and, exactly. And this is the conversation me and Verse had early on, the song of St. Martin. What is the song, or what do you guys classify the song of St. Martin?
Thank you for having us once again, man, and thank you for giving us, hopes, and it really feels good. I go by the name of Tension in the band. I'm one of the lead singers here. I started music from a young age at like 10, 11, singing, and I was very shy. I didn't really want to do it, but my music teacher at that time was like, he heard my voice. He was like, "Yo, you gotta go and take part in." Cause at that time, our school used to do our little competitions, and I took part, and I actually won that year. And I was like, "Wait, what?" And people actually they love my voice. I was like, "Wait, I have something here. Let me push." Then it transitioned into I singing in church and these things that most musicians I talk to that way they start off at in church, and I didn't really want to be a part of the soca and them kind of thing, 'cause I raised like that. Initially, when Skillful started with a guy named Marlon, and he wanted me to be a part of it from then. But I was like, why? I don't think I could go out in the world like that now, And so I turned it down and thing, and we started in 2018, and as they went, I was watching them still because he was, and I was watching them. But on that time, I was in my church and my thing, and in school now I started with a steel pan. So I already was a singing, but I didn't really know about the technical and the theory of music and all these things. So now the steel pan now, like you said, with Mighty Dow, it introduced me to this different aspect of music now, you know. And growing up and learning and playing steel pan and knowing and Dow teaching me how to arrange and all these things now. I started to dissect music and know it, get familiar with it, And I ended up getting into education now, working alongside Dow, teaching music, teaching steel pan, music theory, all these things. And it really helped me grow as a musician. And early on that time, Keys called me now. He called me back again. Why don't we try him again, by? Maybe you wear out a little bit now. Call me again now, and I in the conference room there in my work now. I said, bye. I wonder if I should say yes. And I say, let me go for it. And I say yes. He said, come for practice later now. And then the rest was, history. I came there now and they heard my voice and say, yeah, that's the man I talking about. I went to school with him as well. So he knew my voice as well. So he said, this, I bet all my money this man gonna be good. Never sang soca in my life. I heard it, but never sang it. Sing it in my house and thing, but never sang soca in my life. And I grew up, listening to the No Limit and the XP, watching them pass on Front Street, seeing that big band playing. You didn't really, like Verse we were talking earlier, you didn't really see DJs on the road like that them times. And that what used to draw me out my house. When I hear parade day come, I know each band and each truck on the road have a live band, and I want to see them play. Not only the singers, but more the musicians too. Hear how they arrange, how they play these music. Growing up with, and I said it on Flag Fest. One of my favorite songs was Black Man from Respect Band, because when I heard that coming down the road, man, even me as a little child, when I hear it, I said, that song, it touched me, but I feel it, not only the words, but just how he sang it and how it's the energy and all these things. Yeah, I joined the band in 2022, and we went along and won our band clash in 2023. 2022, we won the band clash in 2022, and we were talking earlier as to us as young people. I'm the oldest in the band, so I keep everybody. Well, I try to keep everybody in check, but it's very hard to deal with sometimes. I don't even want to get into that one. You know, ain't calling no names. But yeah, we went along and I joined in 2022, and yeah, the band clash, and from then we were talking and we said, because we were young, and a lot of them watch us as young men, and they say, well, they don't want to give us a chance. And, I didn't start in 20. I couldn't even imagine how 2018 was coming up, because trying to think. But when I joined, we had a little push and pull with people, and they didn't really believe that we could do it, and we had to really test and prove ourselves over and over and over again, and it was very hard. And this year I can see, and in past years and last year too, people giving us a chance, putting us on that big stage, and I think it all because of consistency. And throughout the year, we producing music, we playing here, we even putting on gigs for ourselves to draw people in and let them hear us, and even trying different type of music now, not only for the young people then, but like music for the older heads, a little groovy, I think. We have some more coming out, but stay tuned. We got them cooking there, man. We got them cooking, and yeah, we have a lot more to come, man. We have a lot more to come. We're just keeping it hush hush right now, and we want to thank Fabian for giving us a chance, for being on Flag Fest. We've been on Flag Fest for a couple before, yeah, and Skellig for Bacchanal Sunday, and those big stages so people can see us and hear us and know that we have talent here. We are small islands. People in Trinidad and all in bigger islands, they might not know of us. That's the reason I'm here. Yeah, we appreciate that too. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I see the vision, man. I see the vision. Yeah, man.
So as he said, my name is Keys. I am the leader of Skillful Band. The band started in 2018 with my former bass man, let his soul rest in peace, Uncle Basie. We started the band because we wanted to be in a band. We were both playing football at the time. The manager, my father, we were 16 at the time, and he said, "Oh, you're too young. Leave it alone right now." We were begging. So probably from 2014 to 2018 on his case, and then he finally gave us a chance, and then is when we started. And boy, people they used to tell us that we're not a road band. We could only play on the stage. We don't belong nowhere else. And then some said we don't belong on the stage. But it's motivation. If we just start, we have time to grow. And look at us now. So consistency. So yeah.
You guys mentioned bands a lot, and bands seems like the big, thing here in the Caribbean, small islands, as you would say. What's some of the legendary bands in St. Martin? Like some of the names that I guess for you guys especially, kind of, it was your role model, or you take certain things from and whatnot. And of course, so I know it's a band question, but I'm gonna start with verse. So, what's some of the legendary bands and also legendary artists from St. Martin? Because there was a guy named Fish I heard on the radio. I'm sure he's I'm just saying.
No problem. In terms of bands, you had the Youth Waste bands, Bad Boys, Impact, Respect Band, No Limit Band. Who am I missing? Heart Attack. I mean, these was legendary bands. Rolling Tones. Rolling Tones used to play at Labor Day long time ago. Yeah.
That's an old Creole band.
Yeah, and Creole Stars, they used to play like a mixture of like compa and those different type of vibes as well, right? If I can remember correctly. Because we always had that cultural blend, Even like a gentleman by the name of Leaner and the Hard Ways, from way back, created classics. And then in terms of like single artists, you had Timo. I don't know if you ever heard the song Rumba. St. Martin, Rumba, Rumba, da, da, da. Yeah, big song. And then the guy, and then, original Rumba is from here.
I ask that question because, especially in the US, you hear certain songs and you don't know if it's from Guadeloupe, St. Martin, and what not. So I'm happy that you mentioned that.
Yeah, so those are a few off of the top that I can remember. Brad, bands like Fish. Yeah. Who else am missing?
You have Ricky the Fox. He's also one. Um, we have some Patu from what's it? Youth Wave Band. We have so many. Yeah, the Mighty Tempo. We have a lot. We have a lot, and then you have the younger ones that are coming. King Bobo for sure. He is like the king of kings of calypso. I don't think he has been dethroned as yet. I think he's the one with the most wins, according to me, up until now in the calypso arena. We have the young ones coming up now. We have BRG Hollywood. We have Zavo. That's what he goes by the name of. And then you have what's the other one name? Javo did the rum something? Dr. Rum. You have like we have a lot of really you have females as well in the young arena now. You have Ebony Empress. She's also one. You have Lady Z, I think. You have what other one name was Soca again? Not Soca. Calypso. Lord. I can't remember. But anyway, you have Solo Queen. We have a lot. And besides carnival artists, local artists, we still have those that are in the soulful type of element. Carnival hosted a night with them during the carnival season. That was I see them in front of me now. You have Kenyo, you have Tamilia, you have Natisha, you have Sean J, and then you had the other one, Malaika. Those are more in the soulful type of jazzy type of element. We have a lot of talent here, and I think we even have that we don't even really know of quite well as yet.
So just to touch back on when you asked about what was the sound, St. Martin's sound. So St. Martin's sound was that sound, that small island sound that is still you still hear it, like for instance in the Virgin Islands and Anguilla and so forth. Elements we all had that sound, and at some point along the line where they all branched off and kind of created their own, where St. went ahead and created the wilder sound, and then you had the VI. But seeing the fact of St. Martin being they like to use the melting pot, which I believe every Caribbean island is a melting pot. But I would say we kind of a little melted on the excessive side. Yeah, we melted on the excessive side. You get a little bit of everything in a sense here where you get a little mixture of the SK, you get a mixture of the VI, you get a mixture of Angola, get a mixture of Antigua, the Zouk and so forth. All in all, St. Martin was the pioneer, was the leader of these songs back in the day. Just to just a little like I say FYI, history fact. One of the pioneers of Bouyon from WCK, which is Cordell, growing up, his idol was Funk Gums, which is a St. Martin artist from right here. So just that alone says something. If he pioneered Bouyon music and his idol was a St. Martin musician, that says a lot. That St. Martin was in the forefront at that point in time. I just feel along the way somewhere there was a gap. There was a era where the music took a hit, a blow, let's say a downtime. And that's when all these other islands, they excelled and, went ahead. So, people like to question, what is our sound? Do we even have a sound? And we do have a sound. So, and that's something that, we, the artists and bands now are trying to get back to establish that sound, because they went along to name these other genres and so forth and so on. So now that's what we're focusing on now, to establish that sound and establish the name for the sound so that we can now display that sound to the rest of the world. So just want to let that be known. So St. Martin does have a sound, and St. Martin was one of the leaders in the small island sound back in the day. As long as mentioned, King Timo and Mighty Greg and these guys, guys that, for instance, when they would go Labor Day in New York and mash up the place, they would have the place rocking over there, So it's just that these stories are not told enough and not shared and not, available to pass on so that the upcoming generation can understand, hey, don't think that, don't think that there wasn't folks here already setting tone, but understand that, what you're doing is the continuation of what was already started years ago, So I just wanted to share that.
Well said, man. Well said. I'm very much once again thankful, and like I said, the main reason I'm here is once again I always feel like the song of St. Martin, like every island. Let's put it this way. You got Vinci, you could connect, maybe St. Vincent, Skinny Fabulous, or St. Lucia, St. John, Grenada, Killer, whatever. I've always heard about St. Martin music and everything, but it never really. I feel like There's not a blame to anybody, but I feel like the promotion aspect of the entertainment space in St. Martin is not being pushed as hard as it should. So, to be fair, so well, this is a last opportunity for you guys to kind of wrap it up. Well, what can folks expect moving forward? 20.
They're very passionate about this topic here. So just to add in what you mentioned, for instance, like with the attaching the names, to these countries, like, like you mentioned just now, one of the things that we face, one of the challenges, the big challenges that we face is, in these islands, for instance, in Vincent, Antigua, Barbados, Trinidad, and those folks, a lot of folks migrate and they go outside, St. Martiners, we really don't migrate that much. And when we do, it's either to, for instance, French, France, Holland, that's at the European markets, So for instance, where you would have like some Vincentians in the US, you have a stronghold of them over there, as well as Antiguans, as well as Dominicans, as well as Kititians and so forth, Trinidadians, Bajans, so when an artist, for instance, flies out to America and gets booked, the support is already there because they have a base in those things. For instance, like the Virgin Islands, when you look at the Virgin Islands, like Orlando, Houston, Atlanta, there's a strong Virgin Island base over there. So like, for instance, so that's what enables them to get that upper hand on us, So it's not that that they are better than us, it's just that support is there and rooted. So it's a harder push for us because as a promoter, example, if I fly you out, I got to fly you out, I got to put you up, when you look at the return on your investment, how much St. Martiners are coming out to support you in that instance. Yeah. And with the DJs, as well as these big DJs, when you look at the big names in soca, these DJs are from Grenada, St. Vincent, and those islands. So they tend to push their artists, more, which I can't give them wrong in that sense. So I feel like that's the disconnect that the St. Martin artists are facing in comparison to these other islands when it comes to outside. So I feel like that's where the unity needs to come in. And if we get that, that support where, we tend to not view it as St. Vincent and Antigua and so, and just view it as one Caribbean and just appreciate the music for the music, I feel like that would be a start to help with us because like you said, you came and you heard the music. You like the music, right? It's good music, right? So imagine, so imagine if we had the opportunity for more folks to hear that sound, in these bigger countries, and so forth. I feel like that would, then eliminate that little era where we could now, hey, play this in my, play this King James, play this King Voice, play this Skillful, and it sounds good. And then we could then, move on to then, the bookings and those type of things and getting that type of exposure. So I just wanted to add that, to it.
Yeah. I really appreciate the fact that you broke that down because it make a whole lot of sense. And while you're talking, I'm also thinking to myself. So I was supposed to attend the Jamaican Music Conference last February, but I had other obligations. And I'm thinking maybe that's something that they should do in St. Martin as well, have a music conference. Because that's a very good point that you mentioned there. That another question that I have also really quickly. St. Martin is pretty much split into two countries. You got the Dutch side and the French side. How does that affect musicians, artists? Does it affect it all? Does it have any bearings in any way?
So from a musician standpoint, it affects us in a positive way because the fact of being, and that's why our artists are so diverse that you can get a little bit of everything from us, because we are able to, we have the influence of the French and the zouk and the compa style, as well as you have the influence on the Dutch side of our style, the small island, as well as other islands because we are like, how much nationalities we have here? More than 120 nationalities here. So you get a little bit of everything with us. Whereas, for instance, I mean, if we want to say no, like the rest of the world is on the Bouyon wave right now. We've had the Bouyon here years before, way back when, the Kititian style Wilders, I mean, the jam band, Antigua and so forth. So we are very, and that's with our, like he said, his artist name used to be versatile. We are so versatile when it comes to music, and I feel like we are the most versatile artists in the Caribbean. I mean, if anybody want to challenge me on that, check me because no, check me, check us. So and we have so that we are able to do the compa, we are able to do the zouk, we are able to do the VI, we are able to do the the Antigua, we are able to do the Kittitian Wilders, we could do it all, and that's another thing that makes us so unique when it comes, because you can get a little bit of, we could do it all. So I just wanted to put out.
Yeah, but and like what he was saying, and then like Fabi was saying, even though we're French and Dutch, it's still one island, and it's invisible borders, like we have to pay the cross and they can't come over here, we can't go over there. So we really work with each other here. All right. Whether it's collaborating with each other, and they bring their French style and we bring our style and we work together. For example, us with Light from the French side. He brought his style of singing and his style of flowing on the beat, and we merge it with ours, and then it created gold, and they love that song Ben over here. So it really we boost each other. We help each other out music wise, So it's very positive over here.
No, I mean, all facts, all facts what he said, all facts what he said. Unfortunately, and because of everybody, I mentioned to you this earlier, that at a certain point, St. Martin, when the tourism boom started to happen, everybody came to St. Martin. If you ask a lot of people like on the streets and so forth, like my mom is from the Dominican Republic, my dad came from Anguilla, but I was born here. So all I know is St. Martin, And growing up in high school, for example, I used to go to house parties, but it was mostly dancehall and reggae. So the only time I used to hear the soca and so forth is when Carnival time come around. So the influence is incredible, but we here. And like the biggest bands, Youth Waves, French Side, Respect, French Side, Timo, you could go on and on. So, we, like Fabi said, it's borderless. It's one island, and we are St. Martin.
Wow. Well, guys, man, I really thank you guys for taking time out your busy schedule. Any last things anybody want to say before you wrap it up?
If you've never been, come to St. Martin, book your ticket. You don't know what you're missing. If you think you was enjoying yourself before, just come on down and you'll see. Experience life right here with us. We have a lot to offer. Trust you me, you will not be disappointed. Like I say, we have a party from Sunday to Sunday, not doubling up on anything. You will party twice in the same place. And Carnival, then come experience life. There's no place like St. Martin.
You want to experience life? Come to St. Martin. You want to experience the greatest life? Come to St. Martin's Carnival. We go nonstop. We have an open air village. We have all genres of music. We have over 79 booths that you can choose to eat from. We have great street parades, the largest outdoor restaurant. We have great street parades, great jump ups. We have great international and local concerts and events. And I will say St. Martin is unique. It will always be unique. And we have the most nationalities living here, and we can live here in harmony. When you come with your flag. That's where Caribbean Flag Fest was born of. For me, Carnival is Caribbean. That's why it's Caribbean Flag Fest. And the most honorable thing you would want to do is wave your flag no matter where you are. So tell people who you are, where you're from, and come to St. Martin. You will not ever regret. And when you come here, you're going to want to come here every year, maybe every month. Who knows?
But you know what? I wouldn't disagree, because I'm here and I must say I'm having a really good time. And I would say that I did attend Carnival Village. Yes, and very affordable. I would say very affordable. Very affordable, and the food is great. Yeah, St. Martin is lovely. Definitely, I'm very thankful. Yeah. Very soon. So guys, man, I really want to thank you for taking time out the busy schedule. With Fabiana, thank you so much. Much appreciation.
And that's a wrap on this episode of the AlonzoBash Podcast. Thank you for tuning in and rocking with us. If you enjoyed today's conversation, leave a comment and let us know your favorite episode so far. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share to help the podcast grow. You can catch the AlonzoBash Podcast on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and even on Amazon Alexa devices. Just ask Alexa to play the AlonzoBash Podcast. Until next time, stay inspired, stay connected, and as Alonzo would say, stay focused on your goals and dreams. See you on the next episode.